we'd done a serious podcast where we really engaged and went back and forth. And he asked me lots of questions about myself and my practice and my history and my visions. And I said to Marc recently, I was like, hey, I want to do another podcast. But you know what? I don't want to be serious.
We're not serious right now?
Oh, so I want to be serious. I want to have fun discussions. But I don't want it to be planned. And let's dress up. And let's throw shame out the window. It's not just because I'm 44 and I have no shame anymore. I was like, yeah, you know what? I don't care.
What's it what you said to me? If you have no shame, the world's your oyster?
That's exactly it. If
Guerrino
you have no shame, the world is your oyster.
All right, guys, and welcome to Becoming a Better You podcast. Today we have our first time second guest ever. Standards are getting low around here. We got G. G's also a physical therapist, a guitarist, and a master of some trades. So today, G, so we just have questions. We don't know what is planned.
We don't know what each other has planned.
You ready for this?
I'm ready for this.
All right. So my first question for you, because I don't have kids that I know of. How are cartoons different nowadays versus when we grew up in like the 80s, the 90s? And just for preference,
okay. All right.
Ghostbusters #1 for me, Ninja Turtles #2.
Well, I mean, I have to stop you there. Like, Ghostbusters, the cartoon?
Yeah, the real Ghostbusters.
Okay, because we're talking like the Gorilla Ghostbusters or the real Ghostbusters?
The real one. I need
Did you know the Gorilla Ghostbusters is actually the original Ghostbusters?
Well, it shouldn't be.
Well, it's true. So I'm going to give you this real quick because this is too cool not to know. Ghostbusters was being filmed, right?
We're talking the movie.
We're talking a movie. Yeah. And all through filming, this is on Netflix, so check it out. And if all through filming, they didn't have the rights to the name Ghostbusters. So they had to film 2 scenes for every scene. One with Ghostbusters, like on the jacket, on the logo, and another scene with some other name, like Ghost Catchers or something.
Not as cool.
Not as cool. So the problem was, there was this old show from, I think, the 50s called Ghostbusters. And there was a gorilla as part of it. But they were like these misfit, detectives that were the Ghostbusters. And that's where they pulled for the original cartoon until they got the real Ghostbusters.
And that's why they put that in there.
Cartoon. Yeah. Right. That aside.
So because the cartoons we grew up on, especially boys.
80s and 90s.
Manly men shooting guns, there's
an amazing,
muscles.
There's a great meme, and it's a photo of Barbie, right? And it says Barbie. It's like, and Barbie's dimensions and stats is like, this is why girls have body dysmorphia, anorexia, bulimia, blah, 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 blah. And then they just slap up a picture of He-Man. There's nothing under it. That's it. Yeah. He-Man. He-Man for me was
my
the epitome of 80s cartoons. Like, he was my hero.
And why'd you like it?
Are you kidding me? Everybody in that show was muscle bound.
Yeah.
And they were all like super moral compass, and they fought laser beams with swords, and they lived in Eternia, and there were monsters and all kinds of cool things.
There was like a distinct good and evil.
Right, distinct good and evil, and it was a fantasy, and you could escape to it. But somewhere in the back of your little boy mind, you could aspire to be like He-Man, right? He was like the ultimate goal.
Sure.
And then he was followed up with everything else in the 80s. You had Schwarzenegger, you had Stallone, you had all these guys.
Hulk Hogan.
You had the action guys, right? They were the big to-do. And so those were your role models as a little boy, for the most part. G.I. Joe, right? The great American hero, right? And now you look at cartoons today, distinctly, and I look at watching my boys and their cartoons that they watched and still watch. Those simple themes are all gone.
Such as good and evil?
Good and evil. A moral to every, like He-Man had a moral to every episode. G.I. Joe, they came back at the end of every show and told you the moral of today's episode or the story for today and all that good stuff. Granted, we also had Looney Tunes, right? Which was as slapstick and as non-politically correct as you could possibly get, which was a theme of the 80s and 90s in general. And the Animaniacs and those kinds of things.
I did like Tiny Toons.
Tiny Toons.
Were you too old for that? Or
no, I remember my brother was Tiny Toons. He's 5 years younger than me. But so now, some of the stuff they watch now, there's lots of callbacks in the jokes to those cartoons that the kids don't get. We get. Like, I'm watching it going, oh, wow, that was a callback. But there isn't like it's more just like stream of consciousness kind of activity, and like almost like a kid's version of I'm gonna blank on the show. Come on, Seinfeld. Almost like a kid's version of Seinfeld, where nothing happens in the show. It's just, day in and day out stuff, but there's adventures in the middle of the show, and all kinds of weird, crazy stuff happens, and it's slapsticky, but there isn't like an overall theme, or there isn't like a message that we're going to pick up at the end. It's just so silly and crazy.
So why do you think that is?
I don't know. I think we also grew up in an era where, right, your show only came on once a week.
Good point.
Right? You knew at 3:00 on Wednesday, right after school, you got home, mom was done watching her stories, and you could put on cartoon or Saturday morning cartoons. The Incredible Hulk, The Amazing Spider-Man. X-Men. Boom, 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 boom. It was like...
Did you have a favorite X-Men?
I mean, yeah, for sure.
Wolverine. Yeah. Okay, number 2 then.
All right.
Who your second favorite X-Men character?
My second favorite X-Men character? X-Men, right? We're not saying Marvel character. We're saying X-Men.
It's just X-Men, yes.
Would be Iceman.
All right.
I like the Iceman.
Okay.
He was pretty cool.
I'd have to go with the Cyclops or Gambit.
Gambit he was suave, man.
Come on, shit. But getting back to cartoons, so we grew up on that. And I think, that's when you're forming. It influenced you, especially for me with like wrestling and like seeing these men that are muscle bound. And Hulk Hogan saying your prayers, training, taking your vitamins.
Look at the way you're dressed versus the way I'm dressed.
We watch different cartoons.
Yeah, but absolutely, right? Absolutely. It influenced everything about the way you perceived yourself and the way you saw yourself growing up and who you wanted to be and the goals you set, right? And honestly, that might lead into my question, right?
Okay, before you say that, you look like the guy from the new Star Wars, the Darth Vader kid.
Really?
What's his name?
Kylo Ren?
Yeah.
The actor or Kylo Ren?
The actor.
The actor.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think you're better looking.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, that's what you look like.
I mean, I'm just a little younger than you.
Well, what's up? So, but you made a good point because that cartoons you can watch at any time, YouTube, whatever. So,
so they got to keep their attention. So it's a different format. It's like some of them are shorter. They're like 20 minutes, 15, 20 minutes, and it's boom, boom, rapid fire. And honest to God, like they'll put them on, and unlike what we did, they know that they can just go back and watch them whenever.
Yeah.
So 15 minutes into the show, they walk away. And they're doing something else.
Gotcha.
And then they'll come back, and it's 3 episodes later, and they just pick up where it is, and then tomorrow they'll just start again. And
on a new episode?
No, sometimes the same ones.
Okay.
And just keep watching and catch different parts. It's totally different. We had like a more rigid schedule.
You didn't want to miss it.
You didn't want to miss it. You knew you had to be here. You had to watch it. This was your one opportunity, and then boom, you lost it unless you could record it on VCR.
Right, which was a pain.
Pain in the butt.
Yeah.
So it's a whole different game for them, and I think the shows reflect that very much.
Interesting.
Okay. So I'm gonna pull up a question here for you. I'm gonna try to tie that in. This isn't the question I was going to go with first, but this is what we're.
I've never really been asked questions on my podcast before. This is pretty exciting for me.
Pretty exciting?
Yeah. I mean, people have asked me a little bit.
No idea.
I have no idea what you're going to ask me.
It is. So this question is going to sound a little strange, and you're going to have a hard time answering it, or he won't have a hard time answering it. So my question is, what is it like being awesome?
Well, I know you're saying that in jest, but also
not
some real. Man, I don't. I'd say this a lot. Like, when you're in the forest, like you can't see, you just see the trees, like you don't see like everything.
Yeah.
And even though I do silly things, I do stuff like that, I'm so focused on where I want to go that I don't even like see that. It's almost like I like what I'm doing. I don't really think of myself like that. I just know that I need to follow my excitement and then keep moving forward. But I never really think I'm awesome. I don't know. I don't have that.
Well, think of it like this. I'm going to do this for you. Okay. We're going to go.
That was awesome.
That was awesome.
Yeah.
See, now, to me, it wasn't awesome, but to you, it was. So now the way I'm going to, throw this back at you is, I said, what's it like to be awesome? Because to a lot of the people you work with and who you influence, they perceive you as awesome. Right?
Yeah.
So what becomes to me like now it becomes a personal question is, do you own that? Or do you humbly say I'm not and stick to that?
So I understand the influence that a coach, instructor, or sensei will have on the person, right? Because the ones I have, I hold in high regard.
Right.
Because again, if you help people achieve what they want, then you can get anything you want in life, right? I'm paraphrasing that quote. I think you're just so focused on helping people, and it's like in physical therapy, like you fix one person, another one comes in. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And it's like you're always in that wheel of helping people that I don't think I will really understand that till I sit back. Like I don't, and I think part of me doesn't know if I should think I'm awesome. You know what I'm saying? Like,
well, see, in
what do
my
you
mind,
think?
part of my mind thinks, yeah, damn right, we ought to think of ourselves as awesome.
We should. I agree. Yes.
We should always think of ourselves, and not just us. I'm thinking
everybody.
I look around the room sometimes in the clinic, and I see all these patients, and in my mind, I'm like, man, so-and-so's really got a rough lot. So-and-so's really got a rough lot. I can't believe they had to go in for a revision on this surgery. And then I'm thinking about me, and I'm like, well, they think highly of me, and I'm sitting here in marvel of what they're accomplishing.
Yeah.
And it's like, and you look around the room and go, everybody here is awesome.
Yeah, and that's a good point because
everybody in the room doesn't think that.
Yes. Well, and I think two things with that. So number one, and I can see that because obviously I referred Coach Josh to you after going to another physical therapist. Right. And he's like, geez, awesome.
I'm just going to state that I didn't say that. HIPAA says that we never share anything about patients.
Yeah. I didn't say his last name.
Thankfully, we know this person, and this person is probably very cool with what you just said.
If we can split some money, I'm fine with that. But he's like, geez, awesome. And I was like, yeah, I know. Right. So I see that, like, because he went to another physical therapy. They didn't do anything. And then obviously through rapport, I was like, go see G. So I get that. Right. But one of the reasons why I did this podcast, and like, we just have like local people around, right? Now, obviously I had Mayor Hopkins, I had Miss Rhode Island.
Yeah. I mean, that's some influential people.
But everybody has a story.
Right.
And I think that's the most important part of like what I'm doing here.
Yeah.
Whereas even other podcasts, right? Why do they get so many views? Well, they have a famous person. But the everyday person might even have a better story, of course, than that person in the podcast.
Some of the most everyday people have the most amazing stories.
Yeah. And I think that one of the big benefits for me is learning from that, because like everybody has something to teach.
Sure.
And I feel like I can see it, like after I do the podcast with people and we talk about different things, they change a little bit and I change a little bit.
That's wonderful.
But I also think that society, and I was thinking about this probably a couple of weeks ago, society teaches people not to brag, stay in your lane, like don't be awesome, be normal, right?
Well, I mean, society, operates on a different rule set. It's kind of like a hive mentality, I mean, look at our social media. We lose a little individuality through social media and through society because we're operating in more of a hive mentality and structure, right? So it's almost like you'll never see this side of me, or you'll never see that side, the side of you that is contemplating, am I awesome? Because that's not an outlet.
Yeah.
It's just not, it's not even an option. It's like you said, it's like we have lanes. These are the designated lanes that we can operate through that's been given to us, by them who designed it all, right? And you lose a lot of that interpersonal individuality.
So I think that's a good point, because like what I really get off on now is having these conversations with people, even off camera.
I like how you finished that statement the way you did.
I mean, I could have said many things. But having those, like we've had discussions, just me and you, right? When we go out and stuff like that. But like having that moment with somebody and talking and growing. And honestly, for me, it's kind of funny because like, yeah, I do have like this public persona of doing things, and a lot of business owners will. Right. But then there's a few people who get to see, especially the women, like my girlfriend at the time or whatever, like they get to see what goes into it, and they get to see where, I'm debating, A or B, or
Always.
I'm confident, but like you're seeing me listen, when you have a goal and you start to achieve it, you get confident.
Yeah.
You make a new goal, you're not confident yet.
Sure.
And they'll see me at that point where this is this new goal. And again, you're on uneasy ground because like you don't have things planted and you're trying to figure things out. And to share those moments with people, even ask advice. I mean, you've given me great advice since we started talking business. And I think that for me, it's really about connecting with people who want to grow, have a growth mentality, but also people who have a business. Because like a lot of people I can't talk to and be like, yeah, it's always on my mind. Or like what you were saying, like, what a week, the full moon's out.
Full moon is out.
The full moon is out, and like just having those conversations that like I can relate.
Right.
Yeah. But I definitely should tell myself I'm more awesome.
I think so. I think I mean, that was the point of the question I wonder if Slash gets his hair in his mouth all the time.
Probably.
Because that's what it's like, it doesn't taste good.
You need a headband. Yeah. You're a novice.
Like an 80s headband.
Do they know you're really bald?
Well, they do now.
Okay.
Well, I mean, we'll find this out later. Maybe. But I have never grown. I had hair once, and it was never this long. It was shoulder length.
When I first met you, you had no hair.
Well,
right. No, but I think that's a good point. And I think everybody is awesome.
Yeah, and that was that was why I brought it up. I was like, we really should feel a little more awesome. And I think we should encourage each other to feel a little like, hey, by the way, don't own it.
Yeah.
You're a little awesome.
A little?
Don't be a cocky bastard, but.
Well, so that you make up a good point, though, because like.
Exactly. It's be a little awesome.
Be a
little awesome.
Well, at this point, let's just be really awesome.
Yeah. Well,
But that's a good point, because I think that when you start, I mean, listen, I think if you're awesome, like you can think it, you don't have to proclaim it, because then it's like, someone proclaiming they're a king, but you're not a king. Like you have to be, made a king. But also like society will then try to bring you down.
Well, and it, one more time, ready? Here we go.
Very awesome.
So very awesome. When we take, all right, let's, I'm going to reference one of my children, my younger child.
They're both beautiful kids, by the way.
Who's becoming a budding drummer. He can do things on the drum kit that I can't even fathom. And I mean, I never really played, but I always was like, in a pinch, I could keep a beat, right? And then he gets on there and he's off time and he's doing stuff. And I'm like, wow. Hey, bud, next Halloween, Dad's been trying to play guitar better now that he does. Do you want to play the drums? No, I gotta get in front of people. No. And I'm like, and I'm thinking to myself, dude, you're awesome. Yeah. Don't you want to feel a little awesome and let everybody else feel it too? And I feel like that's something that everybody's a little more introvert, a little more extrovert, but I also feel there's a lot of that just gets taught out of you.
Yeah. It gets beat up.
It gets beat out of you by peers and older peers and people saying, don't do that. You look like an idiot.
Right.
And then they internalize it. And then before you know it,
it becomes you.
Yeah. Right.
So everyone needs a hype man, woman.
That's it.
Hype person.
We need to hype each other up just a little bit more.
I agree with that.
All right.
Yeah. All right. So my next question, what are your thoughts on aliens?
Do you like the matchstick to the left or the right?
The left. Aliens, do they exist? Will they be here in our lifetime? Who built the pyramids?
Woo! That's not one. That's like a 4-hour discussion. But
I'm a podcast host.
Let's take this. So do I believe? Of course I believe there's aliens.
Why?
Well, before we even go into anything seen or unseen, math says absolutely unequivocally we cannot be it. Period. End of story. That means there is more. Does that mean there's more intelligent societal life? Well, technically, according to math, yes. Right? So that's the answer to that question. But now let's have fun with it. You look through anthropological history, right? So you look through hieroglyphics, you look through ancient Egyptian writings and drawings. You look at even caveman drawings. You look at artwork done in the BC AD era, some of it religious, non-religious, doesn't matter. There's things that portray humanoid figures in what looks like space outfits and disc objects in the air and chariots floating through the air. But they're, I feel like throughout the course of history, and we're going to take this 100 different spins, but if we take the notion of religion away and say, okay, we're not looking at God floating around in the sky. We're looking at somebody perceived to be a godlike character who comes through the sky. What were they looking at? Were they literally looking at that, and that's the best way they could describe it? And then a group came along and said, we can turn this into something, and poof, a religion appeared, right? That's a whole different topic. But again and again, you see these images and depictions and stories. There's one individual who made a very, very compelling argument about how we translate the actual Bible. And said, if you actually look at the words, and this guy was a pastor who trained priests in the Vatican. And his job was, they have these guys that are specifically supposed to go through the ancient Hebrew and take every word in the Bible and translate it exactly. Not interpret it. It has to be the actual word. So they have to break down the participle, like every part of the word, and break down and say, this is exactly what it means. And when he did it, he found inconsistencies. He found words that were like Elohim, which is supposed to mean like superior, not God. And it changed things. And then so he interpreted more text. Until he got to the part where there's the burning bush, where Moses goes up to the burning bush to be told by God. And then when he interpreted this, he goes, they actually are describing a craft. Metal legs, something that looks like wheels, emitting fire, and then the voice from within said, please stand back. And it was interpreted as, stand back, don't be too close to the holy light. That it was literally like, no, stand back from the flames, because this thing could kill you.
Which they wouldn't know if they didn't have that technology.
Right, well, and they had no way to describe it.
Yeah.
So as they described it, there was actually an architect who took that description and constructed what that craft would look like. So again and again and again, you find all throughout history and all throughout anthropology, figures and stories and texts that suggest we definitely have not been alone here.
Well, I think I was listening to somebody who's talking about, the cavemen, stuff like that. And they were like, they didn't make up stories. No. They wrote down what happened.
They wrote what happened and what they saw.
Right?
This is what we saw. We're going to put it here so the next person sees it.
Yeah. And they also talk about how different civilizations on different continents have very similar stories.
Right.
And if they never interacted, like how would those stories come?
What was it? We're going to go to the pyramids.
Yes.
Right? Forming specific lines across the longitudinal lines around the earth, but interlacing in like almost a harmonic network all over the place. Lands that never met, right? Far East, Caribbean area, all islands, and these places, these people never knew each other, but designed the exact same things, slightly different structures, but performing the same action with the same dimensions, with the same distancing, with the same everything. And some of it wasn't even based on, it's based all on star charts. Some of them are not, And that's amazing.
Well, and then they have like the NASCAR lines where you can only see it from a craft. Right? Only if you're in the air. So like, why would you make things on the ground
that
if you could only from the air? That doesn't make any sense, right?
And I mean, I'm sure you'll have like someone will say, well, there's an explanation for this, for that. But the fact is, you have so many things.
Let's logically think about this.
Yeah.
Right.
And you can't explain away all of it. And if you draw logical, simple conclusions, you go, well, chances are somebody else made those. And
I think
wasn't us.
Yeah. And I think, they talk about number one, when Roswell happened, right? First of all, they said they caught a flying saucer in the newspaper.
Right.
And then they had...
They redacted it.
What's that? They redacted it.
Right.
And but then again, like after 1947, technology shot up.
Like a rocket.
Right? So we had more technology, computers, all this stuff after...
And very recently, you have more and more active, like we had an active general admit to flying craft that they had no idea where it came from. We have, it was a gentleman, a former prime minister in India, admit.
The Canadian Prime Minister Defense.
Yeah.
That's a Nick Pope, I believe.
So, it is like a trickle effect, I feel like. And that comes to the point of the second part of your question was like, will we see them in our lifetime? That's a tough one, because everybody has their timetable, right? Everybody, people who channel, people who, everybody has a timetable. Some of them don't match up at all. And the timetables change. And there's a lot of reasons why they suggest their timetables change. Whether you see
are you talking about the UFOs presenting themselves timetable?
Right.
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
And, an individual will say, well, they changed their timetables because, it's convenient. It didn't happen yet. Well, logically, you say, yes, of course.
Well, I think they're also like waiting for society as a whole to be right.
And there's 100 different reasons why you can justify why it hasn't happened yet. So you say, well, is it going to happen in our lifetime? Crap, I don't know, but it sure be cool if it did.
Yeah, and I also think so. And when we look at it logically, are you familiar with like the Phoenix Lights UFO?
Yeah.
So it was like a UFO that was over Phoenix, I think for 2 days. Massive lights. Everybody saw it.
Described, photographed, video.
There's video of it. You can look on YouTube. That should be enough right there to be like, well, we didn't make that.
Right.
End of story. We know that,
Well, there's a whole nother school of thought that says, well, we did make that. We learned how to make that from those old crashes.
Yeah.
And this is, the secret stuff that comes out once in a while to be tested. And we never admit to it because you don't want to admit that you have that kind of thing.
Right. Yeah, I mean, it could be that too. But
one way or another, you're looking at
something
advanced something.
Yeah. We have technology that,
right.
and not to get too far off, but like that's like, okay, cool. So like, why did the space program end in like the 70s or whatever it did?
Boom, just like that.
Do you really think it ended?
Well,
because how do we know? Like, I don't know. Like, listen, you got to tell me when a shuttle goes off. I don't know.
Right.
So like you could have secret shuttles all over the place.
There was a lot of like funding cut and problems, but you don't just cut funding for no good reason.
Yeah. And there's always money missing from the government budget.
Always lots
right?
of
defense programs.
Dark money, right? Yeah. But in the end, for whatever reason, whether it was because we went to war and we changed political hands and there was no more budget money, we stopped going to the moon. We rather abruptly stopped going to the moon, right? After 13 missions from Apollo. And I mean, we never went back ever. Are you kidding me?
Right.
We had NASA in the 90s, in the 80s, 90s, we had all this resurgence in NASA. Never going to the moon again.
Did you hear that they said they forgot how to get there? That they forgot the technology? Like, all I know is who's believing that?
We have enough technology in here.
Who's believing that?
To do what that computer did in the 50s and 60s.
Yeah.
But we never went back. And then I remember, was it 10 years ago? And they're like, hey, we're going to make a plan and we're going to Mars. You got the moon right here. What are we going to go to Mars for?
Yeah.
Maybe you should take the easy road and go to this one first. Why aren't you doing it?
Unless the moon's already occupied.
Or unless we were told never to come back.
I believe that.
Right?
Yeah.
Or, there could be option C that I'm not considering, but it is very weird that you go, okay, why don't we go back here, boys?
Yes.
Let's hang out here for a little while and learn what to do.
Yeah, it wasn't even, was it the moon or Mars? Like it has, when they do the soil samples, it has like either radioactive or nuclear, like isotopes in it. Yeah. You can only get that from a spaceship. Right? And not to mention how on the moon, the craters only go so far.
Right. The moon has got some really interesting anomalies about it. Which is fun to look up. I will not make any conjectures about it because it really is impossible to prove one way or another, but it's still fun to look up.
Yeah, and I think
it's very strange. It's very odd. It's very intriguing.
And it shouldn't be there.
It shouldn't be there.
And I think one of the NASA scientists, or one of the scientists said it's easier to disprove the moon than actually prove it.
Yeah.
And then they have like these old cultures who have stories about when the moon wasn't here and then when it was here.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So, there's again anthropological history of, that's when this showed up. And you're like, what are you talking about? But they wrote what they saw.
Exactly.
So, these are, it becomes a very, I call it a fun topic, because in the end, I don't have an answer. I have nothing to give you. All I have is lots of cool, weird evidences and, and conjectures and possibilities. But it leads itself to me to suggest, well, there's more going on than meets the eye. And we're definitely not alone. And maybe, hopefully, we'll be less alone sooner than later.
Yeah, and I think that'll bring in an age of, now listen, I believe if they were hostile, they would just...
You wouldn't even know it. You'd be gone.
Yeah, right. So, I think it'd just bring in an age of advancement, an age of probably more unity as a human species.
Right. But I'll tell you, if they really are, if a civilization is more advanced at a higher level of consciousness, they're already a unified group, right? And they want to come here, look at what we do to ourselves.
Yeah.
Man. Look at what we do to each other.
That's probably why they don't want to come down.
We have two political parties, and that are anything but good at getting along and constantly bashing each other. We have groups of people who can't accept individuals for their sexuality or who they are. We have groups of people who, it's like there's so much division, right? And we have anything from unity, that's for sure. And we have a culture which has told us for the last 50 years in movies and television, when they little Martians come down, they're going to kill us and we better shoot back.
Right. But I mean,
so why would you come here?
Yeah. And I think the big thing is this, if you're operating in a higher vibration or a higher consciousness, you're operating more in the vision of love and the vibration of love.
Sure.
So
the ultimate vibration.
The ultimate vibration, right? And vibrations have to match to get together.
Right.
So if we're not there yet, it would make sense where, maybe we're not even in the ballpark yet.
Right. I don't think we're even, the way we look now, we're not even close.
Well, we look good. Yeah, but as a whole, society.
I mean, write in the comments here who you think each of us are all the way through. What's the look?
I don't even know who I am right now.
That's the next question. Do you know who you are? All right. Let me get to, mine is less existential for definite. Let's go to you. Why does fitness matter?
To me or to everybody?
Well, this is to you. I'm asking you.
To me?
Yeah.
So the big thing, in my journey, obviously you start working out for girls, right? Child of the 80s, right? The muscular men get the girls.
Uh-huh.
So that was one of the main reasons. I've always been short. I don't know if you know this.
I hadn't noticed.
So I because you're so focused on my arms. So I had to offset that, right? How do you stand out? How do you protect yourself? You gotta have muscles. And then, I started working out because I was I'm sore from jujitsu and stuff like that. I want to make sure I keep my body going. I had also seen my father's side of the family was mostly overweight, and I didn't like that. I didn't want to be that. So it was awesome because the contrast that they showed me at a young age, I was like, I don't want to be like that. Right.
So you had to strive to do something other.
Yeah. I took the bounce from the contrast and started working out. Okay. So then, and then you get attention for being fit, right? I've always been the guy with muscles, right? Even in, 6th grade, doing 8 pull-ups or whatever it was. That was unheard of.
That was a big deal.
I don't know if I could do 8 pull-ups now. But then it became about my mental clarity. And really, because I don't think anyone really deals with stress well without working out, right? So it became a non-negotiable for me because, again, you want to be attractive to the opposite sex. You want to be able to protect yourself and your family and your loved ones.
Yeah.
And then it became, well, now it's my job. And we had this discussion in PT school. Should a physical therapist be fit?
Right.
What do you think?
100%. You are, like they say, you are what you eat. I am what I portray, right? And if I want you to portray more fitness and health out of yourself, I better exemplify that.
And they're going to take you more seriously.
Right. You want credibility.
Exactly.
Right. And not to say that well, I don't work out. I'm like, yeah, but are you healthy? Do you show, or do you personify some form of a healthy individual, not just mentally and spiritually, but physically. Right. Because that's the first thing, honestly, everybody judges you by is the first thing they do. When they see you, they look at you, right? Yeah. How does this person look? Right. And they're going to tell me what to do with myself, with my health, right?
Exactly, yeah. And again, that's not to say you'd be a bad therapist if you're not fit.
Right.
However, you definitely have more credibility, and you need credibility for them to buy into what you're saying so they get better results.
Exactly, so that they acknowledge your recommendations, they trust you. You know what? He looks like he knows what he's talking about.
Yeah.
And I need you to believe me a little bit because I'm trying to do what's best for you. You might be 20 years older than me. You look at me like a kid.
Right.
Right? Who takes a kid seriously? Right? You need to be taken seriously. You need to show that I have something you don't and I can offer it to you. And this is our realm. Our realm is health and fitness.
Right. Yeah. And it goes down to practicing what you preach.
Right.
But I really think that, like, as we know, like, as you get older, now, here's the thing. I don't actually think your body has to degrade as you get older. I think it's imprinted in us that mindset-wise is what we expect to happen.
I think a lot of that is very true. So many people I talk to, it's everything crapped out after 50 and everything blah, blah, blah. And everything.
Is that how they talk as well?
That's the voice I hear in my head. Even the ladies would be like, everything. So that's the voice. These are the voices in my head. It only reminds me of everything reminds me of my aunts and uncles growing up. So
very Italian, aren't they?
Everybody's got an accent,
Got you.
So patients say it again and again. And I hear people say it, and I hear younger and younger people say it. I'm like, oh man, I'm getting old. And I look at it and I'm like, no, you're not. Do you feel old?
Right.
Then do something.
Yep.
Don't feel old. Make yourself feel better.
Yep. And I think that you can't be the best version of yourself without committing to a workout program.
It's true.
I see it here all the time, right? If fitness is not part of your lifestyle, I guarantee you're going to be more tired, be more fatigued, which is the same thing. You're going to be more depressed. You are going to be pouring from an empty cup. You're not going to be the best mother, the wife, husband, friend, whatever you want, because you're not taking care of yourself first, right? And your body needs movement to heal.
Exactly.
Like that. I don't care.
Irrequivocal.
Any discipline you're at. Yeah. If you need surgery, if you need medication, your body still needs movement, right? Yeah. What did they do back in the day? You would get like a hip replacement. They'd keep you in bed rest forever.
Right.
Now what do they do? You're up the same day.
6 hours later, get up.
Right?
Right.
So we now understand this. So if you don't have movement in your life, your whole life is stagnant, in my opinion. Obviously there can be other areas, and maybe I'm overstating that, but that's how important I feel fitness is.
Absolutely.
And it doesn't mean you have to work out 3 hours a day.
No, I mean, somebody actually, believe it or not, today, I was working on a patient and they go to me, oh, did you see there was a study, which university had concluded as long-term studies suggesting here is the bare minimum amount of movement you need to do to stave off diabetes. And I went,
Which in a sense, everyone's different, so that's already a false article.
Well, it's almost like the same thing where they determine the bare minimum amount. Why the FDA says you need X amount of vitamin C. You know why?
No.
To prevent scurvy.
Which no one gets nowadays.
Well, that's where the number comes from. It's not how much vitamin C would you benefit from. It's, look, you need this much so you don't get scurvy. Okay, let's just give them that much. So they're determining, here's the bare minimum movement you need to accomplish a day to prevent the onset of diabetes. And I'm thinking to myself, why would you do that study? That's obvious you have to move. Who's not moving? Consider our world today, right? Pre-pandemic, it sucked to have a 9-to-5 desk job. You commuted an hour, you were sitting around during the commute. You went to your desk, you sat at your desk for 4 hours before a break or lunch, and then for another 4 hours, and then you commuted home. But you did get up in between, a little bit here and there. Went to the water, fountain, went for a break room. People used to smoke their cigarettes, right? Now sitting, quote unquote, is the new cigarette smoking.
Yep.
Right? So fast forward a little bit. That was already bad. Lack of movement, lack of activity, staring at a screen without changing your eye line and all that good stuff. Not good for you in 100 ways. And then we all got locked up. Stuff happens. What are you going to do? So they figured out, how are we going to keep this train rolling? everybody got to work from home. How did we have the internet? We have all these wonderful things to let us Zoom meetings and such and such. Now, and I have some good friends, that's all they do. They're locked on a phone on a meeting or on a computer on a meeting, not just 40 hours a week, but into the evening, 5 a.m. in the morning, because they might be working for a company that's overseas and with different hours, on the weekends, through the weekend now. But this was never something even considered prior.
Right.
Now there's constant access. So now you can constantly work. I'm like, so now we went from, I had to move a little, to now I don't move at all. I can see why they made the study.
Yeah, they're almost like lowering the standards of what you need.
Right, because people have now shifted to, let's do nothing.
Right.
Did you ever see that movie WALL-E?
I love it.
Love it?
Yeah.
And throughout
I think of that a lot.
Right?
Yeah, I know what
you
you're
go
going to
to
say.
the end of the movie and people, they're living on a spaceship because we can't go back to Earth. We trashed it while he's cleaning it up. And all the people have become really obese. Their bone mass has gone way low and nobody walks. They all sit in these floating chairs and there's a screen right here.
Yeah.
So if I wanted to talk to you, I'm looking at a screen, even though you're floating right next to me. And it was by accident that one of them, like a robot, knocks the screen over and he's like, whoa, oh, there's people here. And he starts talking to people and he discovers that he doesn't want to sit anymore. And it's like mind blowing to him. And I'm like, holy cow, we're going that way.
I think, it's funny. I haven't seen that movie in a while. I saw it once. That scene has never left me.
Right?
Yeah.
It was for me, being a fitness professional, it was very impactful. I'm like, oh my God, you talk about foreshadowing, right? And hang on, let me text this to you. Did you get that? Cool. Never looking up. Just boom, boom, back and forth. That's what happens now.
Have you seen, when the Wii came out and they would talk about like Wii-itis, like from like doing
moving, doing things.
Yeah, because you just do the same thing. But have you seen like thumb injuries and neck injuries from people like texting?
No, I've never. From neck injuries, yeah, perpetual. Like we have so many postural issues, that have been compounded from computer work to texting to
forward shoulder. Yeah.
Right. To the point where we have people with communication difficulties because they don't communicate face to face anymore.
Yeah.
Right. We have more and more introverted kind of personalities. Maybe people were always, I'm a mild introvert in some instances and then a total extrovert in other instances. But
what instance would this be?
I don't know. This is my medium instance. This is the neither here nor there.
I got you.
Right? I'm extroverting on an introvert platform.
Yes.
So, you have people who not only have been comfortably cooped up, right? And they get to be on their screens and stuff. They don't have to exist in the real world. We don't have to see them. Now you don't have to go to the grocery store to get it delivered.
Yeah, sure.
Right? You don't have to go to the restaurant. We got Grubhub.
One of the best advices that someone gave me, we were talking about business and stuff like that. And he was like, don't lose the human connection.
Right. And we're losing that big time.
Yeah. We see it a lot with, we do automated messages for clients and stuff like that. But the video message rocks. Yeah. Like I send them a quick video and because people aren't doing that. And these are my people that don't even know me yet.
Yeah.
They're like, I was like, hey, G, Dr. Marc here. Just so you know, I'm a real person with a real studio. Let me look. You're looking for self-defense, weight loss, whatever. But one lady was like, I've never actually gotten like a real message back.
Right.
And sometimes they ask questions and the assistant tells me and I make a video for that question.
And send it off. That's very cool.
Yeah.
But even still, right? You're trying to get them to come to you physically.
Sure.
You're trying to create a one-on-one sit down to talk to them and get them to come embrace physicality and exercise.
Sure.
Right. So we've lost so much of that. I think the pandemic just like exponentially made that worse.
Definitely accelerated it.
We needed it. We had to do that to get through. But, we've held on to some commodities, but some of them are not good commodities. Not to say like, oh, nobody wants to work anymore. Well, like that's hogwash. There's 100 other reasons why that doesn't happen. It's more, we created an environment where it became easier for people with anxieties, to say, I'm stepping back. I have no choice. Now we're telling you, come back out. And they're like, I don't need to.
Correct. I've already adapted.
I don't need to switch back. Okay, fine. But in some instances, you do need to. We're losing some of that human connection.
Yeah.
And it's evident in the way kids are interacting or not interacting. It'll cycle right back to the bullying on social media and all this good other stuff. Like, if you were face to face, would that actually happen? How many old people have said that? Oh, try saying that to my face instead of writing it. Well, it's true. Would you ever? You'd have been like, I'm gonna get my butt kicked. I'm not going to say that.
Yeah.
Think twice.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just that type of instance. But you take it 100 ways over. And yeah, it's like, now when I ask you that question, how much does fitness matter? On a million levels, fitness matters.
Right. And again, the more fit you are, the more probable it is you have a better quality of life and you live longer.
And you're more confident. You're more likely to engage with other people. You're more likely to go take another fitness class because you crave something new and different. Now you're engaging again. Now you're reestablishing. There's a lot of there's a good growth in like CrossFitting and manic training and HIIT training. I love seeing more of it. And I understand sometimes it's not a good thing to do 100 repetitions of something. You're right. Yes, there's limits, and we don't need to breed too much type A personalities, like give them too much to go on because it creates issues. But at the same time, you might be taking someone who was in the basement, figured out how to do some and figured out how to do some pull-ups. What are you talking about? This is like a 3-star studio.
3.5.
3.5. They taught themselves to do some crunches, some pull-ups. They're a little empowered. They feel a little better. They might go take a class. Now they're in a room with 50 people. Interacting, learning, challenging, being mildly competitive. That's a good thing.
Yeah.
And they're going to be more empowered to say, hey, I want to take this new personality for a walk. Let's go to a restaurant. Let's go walk down the road. Let's talk to people. Let's engage. Let's create a social life. It's a good thing to do that.
Yeah, and that confidence carries over to other areas of your life.
Exactly.
And you could be a role model for other people.
Exactly. You become a role model for other people to empower them to do the same.
So my question for you, how old are you now? Because your face looks a little old right now, but like, how old are you?
I'm actually 44.
Where do you see yourself in 5 years?
Okay. In 5 years, I hopefully see myself furthering my business. I want to buy my building. I want to build some deeper roots. You're having a hard time with this, aren't you? Yeah. It's not so fun from this side either, by the way. Okay. You shave your chest.
I got you. Okay. So you want to further your business.
I want to further my business. I want to grow it. I want to take on a few new things.
Such as?
Like 20 years in physical therapy, right? My passion has always been music. Soccer as well. That's my physical passion, which has taken more of a backseat to just general fitness. I used to lift heavy and get big, and now I'm like, I want to be athletic. I want to feel good. I want to be 50 and 60 years old and still feel good. 70 years old, still feel good. And I don't think it ever was a doubt in my mind from day one. There was no question. I'm like, yeah, I'll be here at 100.
Right.
It was like when people go, oh man, I hope I make it to. I'm like, I don't know, 106, 107. I think I'll go somewhere around there. I guess that sounds good to me.
Yeah,
let's go there. So, and then that was it. That's just my brain has always been, yeah, I'm going to go there. That's fine. Let's get there.
So you can play the long game then.
I want to play the long game, but that also means like you want to be around. It's like, yeah, but I want to do things the whole time. So I love physical therapy. I love what I do. And I see myself continuing to do it for 44, at least 20 more years. I still feel like in 20 years, I'm going to be fit and healthy and active and engaging with younger crowds and able to, do that kind of thing. At the same time, I don't sing anymore with a band. I'm learning to play instruments that I never played before because I was just a front man when I played music. So I'm like, okay, let's learn to play better. What are you going to do with that? I don't know. Maybe I'll record on my own. Are you going to be a star? Hell no. I just want to do it. So it's following passions.
Right.
And following passions is, to me, like, it's got to be one of the most important things you can do. One, because it makes you feel wonderful. It broadens your mind. It expands it. You learn new things. You learn all about, as you learn about as you learn about something new, I can't see past this. As you learn about a passion, as you learn, as I'm learning to play guitar, I always played bass. I'm learning progressions and fingering and chords. In guitar, you follow a scale, a pentatonic scale. And as I'm learning to finger through the scale, so you look stuff up and you read and you're getting some theory, and now you're watching a YouTube video on someone who's giving you cheats and ideas. And it's as you learn and new things open up to you, it's your brain starts to just get excited and you want more, and you go down the rabbit hole and you want more and you want more and you want more.
If you have that growth mindset, though.
Well, the point is you have to have a passion first.
Right.
Find a passion, find an inkling of a passion and explore. Because I've definitely had ideas like, ooh, let's learn about blah, 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 and you start reading and then you forget about it. Well, it clearly wasn't passionate enough for you. And then when I find something that I was, and when I'm learning something that I am mildly passionate about, you start deep diving and you learn things. And it makes everything else better. So it made physical therapy better. It made life at home better. Why? Because there's something new and exciting going on, and I'm craving that. So circling back, where do I see myself in 5 years? I see myself still in my business, growing my business, building deeper roots, furthering my practice, learning new tricks, learning new ideas for treatment, but also growing my passions and trying to find ways to bring my passions out. Do I want to be a closet musician? No, I want to own it. I want to be able to walk around and say, hey, this is what I am and what I do.
And knowing you, because obviously we met when I was just an undergrad, and you were the clinical instructor there. We both have, paranormal stuff we like and stuff like that. But sometimes as a therapist, you can't go into that stuff.
No.
Because some of the older generation would be like.
Yeah, and there's at the same token, I'm not going to sit here with my 85-year-old, patient who likes to knit and has carpal tunnel and say, I'm going to go see this band Ghost tomorrow. They kill it, man. They're fucking awesome. No, you're not going to talk to her about that.
You'd be like, hey, Wayne Newton. Did you meet him?
Did you meet Wayne Newton? I heard he was nice. But you doesn't mean that you're not excited. So when I get excited, and obviously I do love heavy metal, but I grew up on Led Zeppelin, and I grew up in the 80s. Dude, we were exposed to more music. I mean, there were beats, there was bebop, everything was synthesized.
Big hair,
hairnet, Aquanet. I mean, you breathe that stuff in for 15 years, it does stuff to your brain. So you have this expanse, right? I have types of music I really like, but in the end, I love all music, honestly, save for country, But it means that when I get excited about, as I learn more about the music I'm playing, I just want to talk to people about all of it. And I start learning, I was learning about Hendrix last week and talking with a patient about the question of the day that I was just shooting around the clinic because we were listening to a Zeppelin radio station. A lot of Hendrix popped up. And I was like, if Jimmy was alive today, what kind of music do you think he'd be making? That was the question. And I had a lot of people going, I'm like, think about it. He was cutting edge, psychedelic, experimental in the 60s. This is 6 decades later. What do you think he'd be doing? And that was a topic.
Yeah.
And I was genuinely excited to hear what people were coming up with, and things I wasn't coming up with. And that was even more mind blowing. I'm like, wow, I never thought of that. I never took it down that road. And so just, having a passion came out in the clinic and excited people and made the day that much more fun, doing the same thing I love to do anyway that I've been doing for 20 years. So in 5 more years, I just want to do more of that. I want to bring more of that forward. And I want to find other passions that I can, use to bring out
and assimilate them together.
In a similar way, to bring people together, to create fun conversation, to make, sometimes physical therapy cannot be the most fun activity. And you're doing things that may not always be the most enjoyable. It's a little painful sometimes. You want to engage them and have people laughing and having fun. And I think one of the things patients tell me all the time is that we create that kind of environment for them. It's very family-like. It's very friendly. It's very like everybody's chit-chatting and having a great time. And I love hearing that because it means I'm achieving.
Yeah, and that's a good point, because you as a therapist have to control the environment, especially if it's your own place.
Right.
And I obviously could do a really good job of that, right? Taking their mind off the pain, because you're going to be thinking about that for 23 other hours a day and changing it. And I've witnessed some clinics where it's like nobody talks to each other, right? Like the therapist is just going to the other, right?
Draw the curtain. Hide.
Yeah, draw the curtain, right? I mean, mine, especially when I had my aide, Harry Rowe, we would bust on each other in patients like all the time. They loved it. People just came to hang out with us.
Yeah.
Right. And that's why they got better. But not all therapists not everybody has that ability, especially if you're like a shy therapist. And then you keep talking about, listen, I get it, but like, don't make your patient talk about their diagnosis for the hour they're with you.
Yeah, make them feel good. Talk about fun stuff.
Change their momentum.
Change their momentum a little bit. Engage them. Find their passions and make them talk about that. And I enjoy doing that. And, sometimes they'll talk about stuff they're really into, and I'm like, I'm totally not into this, but let's do it. Let's let's go. You're really, like you're coming alive here. Let's do it.
But a lot of times too, if someone's really passionate about something that you're not into, you become engaged.
Right. Well, because you're learning,
right, and
you're just excited to see them giving it to you. When my favorite is the awkward teenager. They're like 14, and they come in and they're like, earbuds are in, looking at their phone, working on their shoulder. How's this feel? It's okay. They're not engaging you, but then you find something to engage them, and especially the boys, like when they finally let that guard down and they start talking and engaging, and everybody around the room's like, oh my God, I didn't know he could talk.
Yeah.
And that personality comes out, and you start to find out what kinds of things they like. And next thing you know, when I'm like, because we'll have the TVs where we play our Pandora, but we'll also watch movies in the background. We like to keep it entertaining, and we'll be like, all right, what, that's enough music for right now. And I'll look at my assistant, Brendan. I'm like, Brendan, what are we putting on? What are we doing? Movie? Show? Are we going Marvel? Are we going Star Wars? Are we going to go like 80s comedy? And this 14-year-old kid perks up and goes, let's put on this. And, the whole room goes, holy cow.
Yeah.
All right. Kid says, we're going with what the kid said. And they're all excited and they're talking. And I love it. I love seeing that, like having a little bit of that passion come out of them, and it just engages the room. And that kid will never come in quiet again.
Right.
The earbuds are never in again. They come in looking to talk, looking to engage, ready to do the next thing, asking for a new exercise. They're no longer disconnected. Now they're connected. Now they're in it with you.
And which means their results can be way better.
Way better.
Yeah.
And faster.
Yep. Yeah. I think that's building rapport, making sure it's a safe space for people.
Right. I don't wear this when I'm there. It's I want that safe space.
I mean, but listen, but I think, and I said this before, like one of the reasons why I wear these costumes, do this stuff is so like people innately are going to be nervous to come into a studio to talk about, sometimes even to a male, even though I'm a medical professional, but all about losing weight.
Yeah.
Or about going through menopause, or about I want to get pregnant. But then they see these videos and they're like, wow, like he dresses up like that. He's cool. Like, I'm not going to make a fool of myself talking to him about that because he looks like this. And although he looks really good, I feel safe talking to him.
Keep saying it. Keep saying it. Just until it's owned as it can be.
I just hope that everyone can see the whole scene right now with these arms, But I think that's important as a therapist.
Hiding them a little too much.
As a therapist, okay. I think that it's important that you make it fun for them.
You have to make it fun. You got to make it fun. You got to, and to the point, and Marc and I talked about this. We'd done a serious podcast where we really engaged and went back and forth, and he asked me lots of questions about myself and my practice and my history and my visions. And I said to Marc recently, I was like, hey, I want to do another podcast, but you know what? I don't want to be serious.
We're not serious right now?
So I want to be serious. I want to have, I want to have fun discussions, but I don't want it to be planned. I don't want it to be, here's the questions and here's the stream and here's how it's going to go. And let's dress up and let's really let's throw shame out the window. And part of that is also, it's not just because I'm 44 and I have no shame anymore. I'm like, yeah, you know what? I don't care.
What's it what you said to me? If you have no shame, the world's your oyster?
That's exactly it. If
Guerrino
you have
Boni.
no shame, the world is your oyster.
Hello, my name is Dr. Marc Bochner. Don't forget to check out my new book, Pug Learns to Believe. Hey guys, Dr. Marc here. Now I know a lot of you want to know how we get all these amazing results with our clients, and it comes down to 3 things. The first is fun fitness classes that burn a lot of calories. 2 is giving you an accountability coach to make sure you stay on track and get the best results. And 3 is the nutrition. Included in the nutrition is our food supplement. So we pair with Prestige Labs because I feel they are the best, they have integrity, and they get great results. These are actually the supplements that I take as well. Here's the awesome part. By clicking the link below, you can save 40% off the retail price. So you need that link to actually save 40%. If you just go to the normal site without my link, you're paying full price, okay? So these are the supplements my clients use. If you are interested, definitely click the link below and it'll tell you all about them.